What would you do if the first and only game you ever released exploded into a phenomenon that you couldn't control? Selling over 2 million copies and forming a fandom that is so ubiquitous it seeps into every corner of the internet. How would you feel knowing that everybody from Lil Jimmy down the road to the Pope was aware of this small project that you worked on mostly alone? As you watched it grow and spiral into countless alternate universes, entire musicals and fandoms that really like your characters, what would you do next? How do you follow up a game that became a phenomenon in its own right and left a lasting cultural impact? Well, if your name is Toby Fox, the answer is rather obvious. Do the same thing, but different. And thus, Deltarune was born. Beginning its episodic release on Halloween of 2018, Deltarune is essentially an official Undertale AU that stars Suspiciously Familiar Human, Suspiciously Familiar Goat, and Purple Dinosaur Lady. On your adventure you will also find Funny Internet Skeleton Man, Goat Mum, and many, many more characters ripped directly out of Undertale. The general gameplay loop, aesthetics, and characters are not the only part of Undertale that Deltarune takes inspiration from. It also borrows the characteristic of having an absolute banger of a soundtrack. And so, refusing to play the game until it is completed, but desperately needing a sweet, sweet hit of that auditory goodness Toby Fox keeps hidden in that soap somewhere, I cracked. And I have been enjoying the soundtrack to the first 2 chapters of the game. So, if you would be kind enough to follow me on this adventure of indulgence as we rank all the songs in the first 2 chapters of Deltarune, I would be honoured. Before we get started, here's a brief rundown on how the tiers are going to work. S tier is where the absolute bops go, songs that I will listen to as a standalone experience, separate from the OST. The A tier are songs that I never skip when listening to the OST because I just love them so much they make me want to get up and dance, but I'll never listen to them on their own right. In the B tier are songs that I enjoy enough to whistle along with the tune to, but nothing that gets me up and moving, you know? C tier are where the alright songs that I don't often skip, but I may do depending on my mood end up. D tier are the songs that I almost always end up skipping, and F tier are the songs that I just don't want to listen to. You can expect many jingles to end up in this tier. And so, without further ado, here is a guy with absolutely no musical experience ranking all the songs in the Deltarune soundtrack. Starting with another hymn, and oh boy, is it a song that means a lot more from a lore perspective than an actual listening one. From what I know about the lore of this game, it's something Gaster might be here and he might be the knight. And this song is supposedly a great example of that, because yeah, if you go and listen to Gaster's theme in the sound test room in Undertale, which is just 4 repeating notes, then I kinda see it. But what about the actual song that I'm talking about right now, another hymn? Honestly, it's alright I guess. It just ends up sounding like a very floaty, moody sort of song that isn't anything to write home about. The most that I've gotten out of this song, in fact, is using it to fall asleep by listening to it on loop, and it doesn't even loop properly, so fails at that as well. It ends up being an alright song that's not going to go too high, so we're starting off pretty weak with a C tier song. And following such a weak start, we have the absolute tune that is Beginning. Beginning is such a fantastic song that only falls short of being in the S tier because of the purpose that it is meant to serve in the soundtrack. This song doesn't want to be the best song in the entire soundtrack that you actively go out of your way to listen to. This song is simply an upbeat and chip away to start our adventure through the soundtrack while familiarizing ourselves with what we can come to expect out of this OST. This song being the first appearance of the leitmotif, Don't Forget, demonstrates that this game is new. Despite the jab that I took at it in the intro, it's not just an alternate universe version of Undertale. But by also including the theme that is present in the first track of Undertale, Once Upon a Time, this song is also subtly reminding you that this game will be reminiscent of Undertale. It allows you to both be filled with joy and hope for this new adventure that you're going to go on, while also remembering the good times that you had in the previous one. It also, on top of all that analytic stuff, just goes unbelievably hard for no reason whatsoever. The Don't Forget main theme is a banger, Once Upon a Time was a really good theme in Undertale, and you put them together and make them really loud and bombastic and you have yourself a fantastic A tier song. Keeping it going strong, we have School up next, and man, this song is just so damn groovy. This song blends the hometown theme, which we'll hear later on, and the Don't Forget theme incredibly well. It also throws in a little callback to the Snowden Town theme towards the end there, which is just a cherry on top. This song somehow manages to have me up and dancing along and positively grooving in just the first 30 seconds alone, upon which it continues to grow and evolve, never staying on one particular theme for too long, which prevents the possibility of any theme becoming overused or stale and taking center stage. This song departs from the classic Toby Fox formula of mixing bit tune and regular instruments, and somehow despite that still turns out an absolute banger. I seriously cannot stop gushing over how good this song is. When I first listened to this song a long time ago, I thought it was kinda mid, just kinda whatever, but listening to it for the purpose of this video has made me realize that I'm in love with this song. Not to mention that it also has a perfect loop in it, which is just, oh my goodness. It's not quite an S tier song. It's definitely in the upper echelons of A tier, however, so I'm probably going to end up putting it just above Beginning. And what an immediate mood change we have in the form of our introductory song for Susie. And look, I'm just going to keep it real with you for a minute. I'm not a big fan of this song at all. It's just simply 4 repeating notes being played on an electric guitar, which, while it sounds sick and radical, I'll give you that much, I think it would sound a lot cooler if literally anything else was going on with it to take the edge off of the guitar. It's a fantastic fit for the persona of Susie and the, sort of front that she puts up, but I only think it's a D tier song. Ah yes, keep the good songs going. By which I mean the bad songs. This song is bad, it's not good, it's not even really a song if you listen to it. Don't get me wrong, The Door does its job perfectly. It's ambient and spooky, which congrats Toby, that's exactly what you were going for, so you crushed it I guess, but it's pretty harsh on the ears. And it's not even like it starts out harsh on the ears either. It jump scares you around a quarter of the way through the song and hurts my ears. Did I mention it hurts my ears? It's not even like a good tune that's being held back by the instruments, like a few songs in this soundtrack and the Undertale one. It's just not good at all. It's the first F tier of this video and I don't know what else to tell you. You can't convince me that this song is good. Wow, alright. We're really front-loading the soundtrack with some pretty mid songs here, aren't we? Surprisingly, Cliffs doesn't hurt my ears as much as its predecessor, but that doesn't mean that I'm a huge fan of it either. It's just long enough to be a pain that I don't sit through it and end up skipping it a lot of the time. However, it's not all the time that I skip it, so I'm going to end up putting it in D tier. Don't get me wrong, it's not high D tier, or it's not low D tier, it's like perfectly middle of the road average D tier. The sound of wind whooshing against the microphone with the occasional high-pitched noise just doesn't do it for me personally. But, sometimes I forget to skip it and life goes on. The Chase is an interesting song, because I don't actually think I hate it. In fact, I actually kind of think it slaps. Is it high up there in my rankings? No, not at all. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but I think it's got a few things going for it. Its fast-paced nature being one of those things. It's just short enough to keep things interesting without being overplayed and making me hate it. If it was longer, I would probably despise the song actually, but the length that it is in the soundtrack plays to its favour quite well. Overall, I'm probably going to put this song in a C tier. Low C tier, but C tier nonetheless. Okay, so remember how not too long ago I mentioned that in Undertale, a few of the songs were ruined by the bit-crushed instruments and the nature of it? Yeah, well the legend falls into that trap wholesale. But strangely enough, it's only specifically at the beginning and the middle of the song. In between all of the high-pitched, ear-bleeding notes, there is a genuinely pretty solid song here. I just cannot get past the first 20 seconds without skipping it most of the time. I saw a lot of people commenting on the last ranking video I did that I just don't like bit-crushed songs, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Most of this very song is an incredible testament to that. I just cannot handle the high-pitched notes that physically hurt my ears. And it's not like you can't do high-pitched bit tune notes either. This song does it very well towards the end. Look, originally this song was going to be in the high part of D tier. I skip it occasionally because of the opening, but after listening to it for this video, I don't think I could place it there in good faith. It's low C tier, because the middle bit of this song is so damn good and it just gets stuck in my head like no tomorrow. It invokes such wondrous feelings of adventure in such a nostalgic way that I can't help but be grinning the whole time while I listen to this song. It's got some incredible progression to it, it's a great song, it's just hard to actually start all of the time, so it's going in C tier. We'll see this tune expanded on soon, and then we'll see it perfected much later on, so for now, just get ready for it, alright? Lancer is an interesting song, because as someone who markedly does not enjoy goofy songs, I am in love with this one for some reason. It's just boppy and upbeat enough that I think that completely cancels out all this zany goofiness it's got going on. Not to mention that at the halfway point, it actually turns into a genuinely competent song in its own right. I don't have much else to say, this little rotund fellow song goes pretty hard, and as such it finds itself in the higher part of C tier. So I have a sort of theory when it comes to battle themes in games, that you can either play it incredibly safe so that you aren't bothered by its necessary repetition, often keeping things basic and just good enough to support the main focus of the battle you're in, the gameplay. I would say that Undertale's battle music, Enemy Approaching, is that formula taken to its peak, the best possible way you could do it. In contrast to that, I would say that Deltarune's battle theme, Rude Buster, is a battle theme that goes above and beyond and manages to land itself in S tier. Yes, it is really that good. Its upbeat nature and seeming constant desire to switch things up instead of just repeating a single theme is incredible. The latter half of this song in particular goes so wild and off the beaten path of what is set up in the beginning in all of the best ways possible. I think this track serves more than just the purpose of being a catchy battle track, however. This song bears the weight of introducing the player to the unique identity that Toby Fox is trying to carve out for his second game here. The overall willingness to show his hand early and lead with complex tracks off the bat instead of holding them close to his chest for later on in the soundtrack like he did with Undertale, alongside a brand new musical identity. It's still bit-tune or chiptune or whatever the hell you want to call it, but it's significantly more advanced and in-depth. I've thought for a while now that if I had to succinctly compare these two soundtracks, I would describe Undertale's OST as something you would hear on an NES or a SNES, right? Whereas Deltarune's OST sounds ripped straight off of a console like the Genesis or the Jaguar. This song, particularly the back end of it, wouldn't sound out of place in a Sonic stage, right? Overall, Rude Buster completely nails both introducing a new musical identity and just being a goddamn bop of a song. It also loops perfectly, so very, very high S tier for this one. And, as if to spite me, the game immediately follows up Rude Buster, where I was just talking about how complex this soundtrack can be, with Empty Town, a song that is as basic in its presentation as it can be. Obviously, following on from the theme established in The Legend, this song also shares a couple of the same downfalls as that one, namely the painful notes, which, credits where it's due, only appear in the second half of this song, so at least you're not immediately jump scared going through the soundtrack, but still, I don't like this song. The melody is fine, but as I said earlier, we will see it done much better, way later on, so for now this song is going to find itself in the top part of D tier. Alright. I'm not going to toy with you, I'm not going to play around here. Weird Birds is going in F tier. It's not a song, it's weird bird noises. But funnily enough, this track probably ends up being skipped much less than the previous one due to its incredibly short 16-second length. It is still just weird bird noises though, so it's not getting out of F tier. If there was one thing I wanted you to take away from my Undertale ranking video, it was my extreme affinity for the piano. If there was a second thing I wanted you to take away from my Undertale ranking video, it was how much I enjoy songs that have a fade in at the start of it, such as Another Medium. And, what do you know it, here comes Fields of Hopes and Dreams doing exactly that. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this ranking video, it's that you should subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hey, I just launched a Patreon, and we're at 10,000 subscribers, so you should subscribe. But seriously, it is how incredibly good I think the main theme for this game, Don't Forget, is. Any song with that motif is instantly so much better in my eyes. So, imagine the sheer joy I experienced when about a minute into this song, which is already an incredible bop, Toby introduces a Don't Forget theme. In his games, Toby Fox has the nature of making area themes just be crazy good for no reason whatsoever, and it's something that we'll see quite a lot throughout our journey of this soundtrack. I don't even know where you could start with the name of this song either. Field of Hopes and Dreams. I don't know what any of this has to do with Azrael or his super mega ultra final boss form, and I'll leave that up to the crackpot theorists to figure out. All I know is that this song has such a beautiful sense of adventure and discovery in its vibe. It is also just full of character. From the aforementioned piano, which is playing underneath the other instruments and sounds like it's having a conversation with itself from two different ends of the piano, to what sounds like bongos in the background keeping in time with the more traditional drums, giving it a playful sort of vibe. And I could be crazy, but I swear to God, I can faintly hear the weird birds from the previous track occasionally chiming in. Not to mention, overall, the fantastic supporting job the strings are doing in this track. From backing up the piano when it starts to quote Don't Forget, to then joining in with the piano before introducing the brass as it starts to also quote Don't Forget. And man, that brass lick quoting Don't Forget is just, it is fantastic. Chef's kiss. I am a firm believer that this soundtrack may not have as many consistently good songs as Undertale, but when it goes hard, it goes unbelievably hard and above and beyond for no reason. An easy S tier song, without a doubt in my mind. I could listen to this song for hours. So, I neglected to mention earlier that in between Toby's first game release and, well, this one, He composed music for a couple of other games, and Rose of Winter, which is where this fanfare jingle originates from, is one of them. The actual full version of this song that you can hear in the trailer for Rose of Winter sounds fantastic, but here, there's not much I can say about this track. It is indeed a short fanfare jingle. I think it's funky enough that I'm not gonna put it in F tier. I don't know, maybe I'll put it in like a low C tier, bordering on D tier, but just close enough to be on C tier. Okay, so for some weird reason, I had this preconceived notion in my head that I didn't like Lantern, and to be honest with you, I have no idea where that came from because this song is fantastic. It sounds intriguing and foreign, but not in a dangerous or potentially hostile and malicious way, but more in a wise old man who has seen many things and will soon impart that knowledge onto you sort of way. It's honestly kind of warm and welcoming in that regard. I mean, it is a pretty generic piece of fantasy music, specifically fantasy shopkeeper music, and a lot of this chapter's music is generic fantasy music, but done in the best way possible. There's just a sense of grandiosity and significance to your journey endowed by this song, and I honestly love it so much. This song is the definition of a B tier song. As a listening experience overall, I'm not in love with it, but oh my god, do I respect how fucking incredible it is. Well, at least this song is self-aware. I'm Very Bad is in fact very bad. From what I can glean, it is literally just Susie's motif again, but this time shorter. It's going alongside its older sibling in D tier. It might even be slightly above it for brevity's sake. If there's one thing that Toby Fox has gotten significantly better at between Undertale and Deltarune, it is making wacky, out there, goofy songs. And I don't think any song demonstrates this better than Checker Dance. This song is out there. It's wacky, it's weird, it's wild, it's all over the place, and it is also just a complete bop. This song starts inconspicuous enough, a simple repeating rhythm that quickly introduces every single musical instrument that you've ever played with in daycare and makes it work somehow. It sounds like someone's just puffing into a flute without a care in the world of what note they're playing. It sounds like some kid is just going to town on one of those little ball-bearing instrument things, you know what I'm talking about. It is all over the place and chaotic, and it is organized just enough to be incredible. Goofy and out there enough without going over the top. It just makes me want to bop my head side to side, let all my troubles fade away. It's incredibly disarming, which is fitting for K-Round, I suppose. Overall, this song is going to be a high B tier. Oh man. This song gives me flashbacks to Quiet Water, and I'm sure it's intentional. Now, I have no way of proving that Quiet Autumn uses the Windows error beep as its underlying melodies like that song did, but I'm completely convinced of it. The comparisons to Quiet Water end there, though, because the rest of this song is fantastic and remedies all of the problems I had with its predecessor. It keeps things changing up just enough and introducing more things, and it's not bland and nothing like Quiet Water was. It's honestly a gorgeous melody, and it improves about halfway through the song. It's a wholesale improvement over the prior one. Unfortunately though, it still isn't anything that really clicks with me, and as such it's going to end up in a low part of C tier. That is purely because it's not something that I will ever flick on my own, and it doesn't have me dancing and loving it, but it is a really beautiful song. Man, what did I say about area themes being absolute bangers in this game? Hell, Toby knew they were so good that he told you what song was playing the moment you walked into an area so that you could go and look it up later when you're no longer playing the game. Scarlet Forest may not be as loud and quick-paced as the prior area themes, but that doesn't mean that you should glance over it either. This is the quintessential sneaking around with your friends and just getting up to mischief type of song with a little bit of fantasy flair added on there. It's great. It doesn't take itself overly seriously, and I think that really plays in its favour. The high-pitched wind instruments invoke thoughts of birds living in the Scarlet Forest. It sounds ripped straight out of an old Disney movie in every single way possible. The almost marching-esque sound of it all, that's then paired with this childlike playful nature, paints a nostalgic picture of friends just exploring the woods and having a great time. It also ends on Don't Forget, which is obviously an incredible choice. All that being said, I still think it finds its way comfortably into the middle to low part of A tier. It's good. Really, really good, but I don't think it's quite good enough to crack into S tier. Thrash Machine, Thrash Machine, Thrash Machine. What am I meant to do with you, Thrash Machine? Outside of your intended context in the game, you're a pretty silly song that conjures up subdued memories of bird that carries you over a disproportionately small gap. But that may just be my monkey brain seeing a duck head and thinking about the bird from Undertale. There is a very specific and strange reference that this song sort of makes me think of, so I'm going to ask you to stay with me for a moment and keep an open mind. But this song sounds like something I would listen to on an old British auctioning show that airs in the middle of the day on TLC or something, while I'm at my nan's house when I'm homesick from school and it's a warm summer's day with the sun shining through the curtains. I don't know why it makes me think of that, but this song makes me think of that. This song is weird, man, it's really weird. By all means, I shouldn't enjoy it. It's not really my type of song, but I really do enjoy it. It might be blasphemous of me to place this into the B tier, but hey, what are you gonna do? Yell at me in the comments about it? Feel free. Now this is the Bouncy Boys theme done justice. Versus Lancer keeps the upbeat, goofy tune of Lancer and just does it all the right ways, complementing that theme in every single way possible. I don't have much to say about it, unfortunately. It's just a really, really good song. It's simple and it's done incredibly well. High B tier. Oh, yippee! We have an ambient track that is attempting to unease/put the listener on edge. My favorite type of song. I don't like Basement Man. This song isn't worth the breath either, just know it's going in a very low D tier. Ow! As it turns out, this song is gonna cause imminent death to my ears in a minute. This song succeeds at being menacing and kinda epic, I'll give it that much, but just stop, man. If this song wasn't directly followed by a song that I think is majorly benefited by listening to this one, it would be an F tier. As it currently stands, I'll put this one in a low D tier. Much like the character that the song bases its name off of, Versus Susie pulls a bit of a switcheroo on your impressions of it. Going from thinking, really? That's it? That's how you're gonna do Susie's theme justice to, oh my god, this song is kick-ass after the initial 20 seconds of build-up. And here's the thing. I don't think the song would work even half as well without the initial fake-out build-up at the start, convincing you that much like her previous song, this one will stay one note and repetitive before just yoinking the rug out from underneath you and delivering an absolute banger of a song with such an ingenious play on Toby's part. My only real criticism is that the payoff, without being this absolute sick tune, is really short-lived. I desperately want to see more of this rough around the edges abrasive side of Susie in the future if it means that we actually get more of this banger. This song alone also adds so many layers to Susie's character. You of course have that harsh facade I mentioned at the start, but alongside that you also have these guitar chords that seem strained and almost held back. Like Susie is just as much trying to convince herself that this is what she's meant to be as much as she's trying to convince everyone else. The overbearing presence of the drums in the end, creeping in and just getting louder and louder, invoke the image of Susie being overwhelmed and not knowing how to truly express herself and what's going on. It is gorgeously done. It's a high B tier song for sure. And from that masterpiece of a track to this one, that sounds pretty generic and one note. Card Castle is a theme that simply isn't done justice until we reach King and his battle. So for the time being, this is just a basic song that drags and remains the same for far too long to be interesting. Low C tier. This song is just as over-the-top and self-indulgent as its titular character, Rouxls Kaard, taking far too long to end for what is a very simple repeating melody. And you know what? I kind of respect it. It's so in character for Rouxls that I almost respect it. Not enough for it to be placed any higher than D tier, but I respect it nonetheless. Okay, am I being Mandela affected in real time? This song wasn't in the game, right? I don't know what the hell April 2012 has to do with Deltarune or how it ended up in the soundtrack, but I'm kinda here for it, honestly. For what it is, it's a short and sweet little tune that gets my head bopping, and it's just pretty good, man. Low C tier. Damn, dude, I didn't know Rouxls was chill like that. What the hell? Hip Shop is a far more relaxed and chill song than it has any right to be. A shot ran by Rouxls should be over the top and pretentious and gaudy. It shouldn't be this laid back and alluring. I don't have much to say about the song, purely because the good vibes are putting my critical thinking skills to sleep, and I'm here for it, frankly. This song is a low B tier. Jesus fucking Christ, what a tonal shift. Gallery is the next song, and it's intense. Intense, short, and very uninspired sounding. F tier. Chaos King absolutely puts Card Castle to shame with how well it executes on the theme that song was so poorly butchering. This is what we call proper final boss music in a fantasy setting. The overwhelming might of this last foe is portrayed perfectly in this track. from the backing tune almost sounding like it's spiraling out of control and everything is being thrown into disarray, which I guess for our heroes it is. Susie has just started to come around to the idea of not fucking murdering everything in sight, and now we've just reached this unstoppable force of nature that disregards even its own offspring. I mean, even just how unsure the track sounds itself at parts is a fantastic touch. Like how around the 30-second mark, the melody starts sounding like it's struggling to find room to make its voice heard over the pure might that the Chaos King commands. It begins to waver and fall out of time from the rest of the melody, and when it begins to regain the strength to keep on going and it regains its composure, it just as quickly manages to fall out of time again. And it is then saved towards the end of the track by the introduction of the theme from The Legend, bringing order to this chaos. You can hear the battle going on between both sides in this track perfectly, our heroes and the Chaos King. It's really well done. It's a battle that once seemed hopeless, but it soon will be overcome by the sheer will of our heroes, and you can hear that in the track. It's really good stuff, man. I think I'm going to put this one a high A tier. Darkness Falls is a very, very interesting song, mostly due to its allusion towards the man who speaks in hands himself, Gaster. I don't know if his theme is necessarily being quoted here, but it sure as hell feels like it is. And that theme sure as hell feels like it's in control of the situation. After the first go around of the melody that the main song is trying to have, it sounds very restrained and almost like it's hanging on by a string. It really, really sounds like it wants to flow onto the latter half of this song. It feels like the actual composition of this song is trying to wrestle away control from this foreign and invasive entity that has taken control somehow. The jarring, unnatural sound of what sounds like Gas's theme being repeated is so unnerving. It puts me on edge way more than any intentionally off-putting song does. So much so that when the actual game over theme regains composure and has control again, it sounds subdued and almost tentative in its execution. It sounds unsure of itself and whether or not it is truly in control again. But eventually it finds its footing and swells into this grand game over theme that is melancholic and full of regret. It's not a sad game over theme. It is a game over theme that feels helpless. You, the hero, may have lost, but this track asks you to consider what the despair and hopelessness would be like with your presence gone from the world. How the world would feel knowing that there is nothing they can do about the impending threat that you've been starving off this entire time. This track is beautiful. It's a significant step up from the generic video gaming sound of Determination from Undertale, so it's going to go in a high A tier for me. The Circus is simple. It is a circus theme that sounds depressive. Like, all the fun of the circus is gone and you're left with the innards. I don't think it's too terribly remarkable, but I do think it is preliminary listening for the following song, so it's going in low C tier. Ooh yeah, baby, this is what I've been waiting for. You knew it was coming, I knew it was coming. The world revolving, baby. Where do I even begin with this song, man? It is the very clear standout from the first chapter's soundtrack. There's not a doubt in my mind about this. An interesting little tidbit about this song actually, due to my tendency to have brain rot and watch YouTube in 2x speed, this song sounds wrong at its regular speed. It just doesn't sound chaotic enough, which isn't to say it's bad because that would be a lie, but I urge you to try listening to the song at higher speeds. The zany and off-the-wall chaos nature of this song is present tenfold when you speed it up, and it is beautiful. But back to talking about the actual regular version of this song, it is chaotic and all over the place, and it makes me want to get up and dance. If you're not hitting the motherfucking Jevil emo when you hear this song, genuinely what are you doing with your life? It only takes the song about 20 seconds to really crescendo into this fantastic cacophony of noise that somehow all comes together to sound incredible. Even the main theme that fights desperately for your attention in this portion of the song cannot stay still, and is running all up and down the scale. And then as it starts to mellow out and you think you're starting to understand the sheer world of chaos that you found yourself in, it turns around and throws Don't Forget in there just to catch you off guard. This song is incredible. This OST is incredible. When I said I think the highs of this soundtrack are higher than the highs of Undertale, just consider that this song is an exponential amount better than that of something like Dummy from Undertale. And I fucking love Dummy. I love Dummy more than you could know, and yet this song is so much better. It's just such an incredible track, man. Easy S tier. I don't even have to think about it. I really, really want to love friendship, but I just cannot bring myself to do it. Which is a really weird sentence, outside of the context of this soundtrack, but even in the context of this soundtrack, it's just really bit crushed. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do bit crush perfectly and all the haters are, run into the comments or whatever, but it sounds like this is a bit crushed version of what could be a full version of Don't Forget. And if we do ever get a fully vocalized cover of this song from Laura Shigihara, it will top the list instantly. But as good as this song is, I just can't help but wish it was the real deal. A full version of Don't Forget is right in front of me. I can almost hear it, and it's locked behind a chiptune caricature of itself. As I said, it's still a fantastic song, but I'm not whipping this one out on a random Tuesday afternoon, so I think I'll throw it in the middle of B tier. Seems fair to me. You see, I have this weird problem where I keep getting the Holy confused with Your Power, and it just doesn't even compare. I mean, it's a good, ambient, important sounding track, but it's just not a bop that I'm putting on the vinyl player and cranking as loud as I can. It serves its purpose well, and that's that. It's just not for me personally. It's low C tier. Dude, I love Your Power way more than I know that I should. It is just a very short epic guitar riff that quotes Don't Forget, and I know that that's all it is, but it just sounds so damn badass and beautiful. It's incredible, I love it. All that being said, it's not a song. It's a jingle, and they usually end up in F tier, so I'm happy to bump this up to a high D tier, and we'll compromise, and we'll pretend like nothing happened. Yo babe, wake up, new Snowed in Town remix just dropped. And I say that in the best way possible, because even though the actual motif of Snowed in Town isn't quoted until about the end point of this song, the vibes are so incredibly similar that you could have fooled me. A town called Hometown invokes the exact comfy, nostalgic vibes that you feel growing up in a place where everybody knows your name. You feel that same childlike glee of just wandering around that you so sorely miss from your early years, and it's wonderful. In case my affinity for the piano hasn't been explicitly spelled out enough for you over the course of this video and the prior one, this song should cement that in your mind, because I fucking love the piano in this song. The piano mainlines this entire song, and that fact alone bumps it up so much higher for me. Not to mention that the plucky nature of the strings being contrasted with the pure grace of Don't Forget being played, which then transitions into Snowed in Town. Oh my goodness, this song is a masterpiece, and I don't know what else to say except it's a bloody masterpiece. It is easily at the top of A tier for me. It might sneak into S tier in another chapter, further down the line, but for now it's A tier. Man, where do I even start with this song, man? The original home theme from Undertale was unimaginably important to me in my teenage years. I had a pretty rough upbringing. At times I didn't even know if I was ever going to be able to just be comfortable at home without having to worry about the weight of everything constantly crushing me. And having a song that I could just listen to that would make me feel warm and safe and comforted in a way that nothing else really could at the time was one of the major reasons for me falling in love with Undertale. This song felt so warm and nostalgic and like everything was going to be okay. When I first played Undertale, I didn't want to leave the ruins. I didn't want to leave Toriel. I was so comfortable and felt so accepted by some area in a video game that it probably took me a good day of backtracking and trying to find a way, anyway, to not have to progress the game. And yeah, if you watched my Undertale video, you would know that home didn't end up in the S tier, which is weird. After that little anecdote I just told, you would expect it to be only in the S tier and not anywhere else. And yet, it is because of this song that the original didn't end up in S tier. This song, even back a year ago, was just such a direct improvement over the original that it had completely supplanted it in my mind. Before I'd even thought about doing a Deltarune ranking, I knew that You Can Always Come Home would be in S tier. And yet, even still, me from a year ago couldn't have predicted how important this song would become to me. Because this song has helped me from some of the roughest times in probably my whole life, although that could be recency bias. It probably would have been about a month or two ago now that I just began to feel exhausted, inconsequential, inadequate. Like I simply didn't matter. I was feeling imposter syndrome pretty fucking heavy, man, and I just didn't feel like I could do anything right. I hadn't touched a script in God knows how long. I was feeling like I was doing nothing but spinning my wheels at work and in all my relationships, and all the chores and commitments I had in life began to pile up around me and feel insurmountable. I was depressed, put simply. And then, much like it always does, life kicked me while I was down. I got a phone call when I was at work that my nan was in hospital, and I wasn't able to make it in time to say goodbye to her. I spent a week with her as she slowly deteriorated before she eventually left, and seeing this woman who played such a huge part in raising me go was devastating, as you would imagine. The guilt and the sadness and the regret that I harbor was just so overwhelming. And this song, You Can Always Come Home, was there to just make it all a little bit easier for me. It didn't solve my problems. It can't solve my problems, obviously. It's not some magical song that can rewind time and allow me to properly say goodbye to my grandmother, but it sure as hell can make me feel like I matter, and that things will eventually get better. I love this song. This song is so much more to me than a song in the Deltarune soundtrack. I'm not making an S+ tier for this video, but if you could just use some imaginative thinking for me and pretend that this song is in an S+ tier. Far, far above the rest. So, if you will recall, throughout so much of my Undertale ranking video, I mentioned hearing lyrics to songs that weren't truly there and how sometimes that would enhance, but more than likely it would hinder the listening experience. Well, this song is actually the reverse of that. Don't Forget, which is sung by Laura Shigihara, the same woman that sung the Zombies on Your Lawn song from Plants vs. Zombies 1, permeates all of the Deltarune soundtrack, and every single time you hear it, it improves the song tenfold. It might take a little bit of time of adjusting to the idea of hearing lyrics in a Toby Fox song, but it is so very worth getting used to it. I will absolutely riot if we don't get a full vocal version of this song by the time that the curtain closes on Deltarune. Toby has it right there in Friendship. He just needs to give Laura the chance and the lyrics, and the world will finally be at peace. But now it's S tier, on the low end. I would expect that to change if Toby truly does commit to making a full version, but for now it's sitting on the low part of S tier. The funny thing about Before the Story is that in my mind it is an Undertale song, not a Deltarune one, and that's likely because it was included in my vinyl collection of the OST as a bonus, and I thought it was a pretty good song then, but it makes so much more sense and works significantly better in this context. It is for sure the song that holds onto its Undertale identity the most, and what can I say, I'm a sucker for what I know. This song feels so hopeful and nostalgic at the same time. I love this song. It makes me feel so optimistic for what is to come in the future without forgetting where it is that I come from. It almost serves as a passing of the torch between the two games, and that's kind of lovely. It's high A tier. Up next, and to start our dive into the soundtrack of Chapter 2, we have what I would consider the quintessential C-tier song, Faint Glow. I seriously have no clue where this song plays in the game. I'm assuming it's the menu for Chapter 2, and I'm just very unopinionated on this song, which makes my job of writing my opinions about the soundtrack pretty difficult. This song's pretty mid, it's not bad, it's pretty forgettable. The Don't Forget theme is pretty in this song, but you only hear segments of it at the end, which is after like a minute of listening to it, so Shmeep Shmoop C tier? Alrighty, this is a good follow-up from some just mediocre song. We have Girl Next Door, and this is a song that I can groove to, man. Girl Next Door introduces Noelle into Chapter 2, and alongside her we have her theme. It's from a narrative perspective, this song tells you quite a lot about Noelle as a character. It's very chipper and plucky, upbeat and joyful, but is also very restrained and bare bones, and I feel like it's hinting towards the idea of this cheery demeanor possibly being a facade, a front that Noelle is putting on. It would also be a sort of dramatic irony. Noelle fell in love with the idea of this front, this facade that Susie was putting on, and Susie fell in love with this actual real version of Noelle that she got to know in the dark world. But besides from all of that, I still think this song is just alright. I mean, it's a B tier song, it's pretty good. We'll see Noelle's theme expanded on later, but for now this song is in the low part of B tier. If you cast your mind back to the segment of this video discussing Empty Town, you'll recall that the only praise I gave to that song was its melody, that of The Legend. Well, lo and behold, here we have the vast improvement over that melody I was talking about, My Castle Town. This song is so comfy and warm in its vibe. I feel relaxed and strangely nostalgic listening to it. Of course, we have the presence of the piano here, something that immediately is given points in my book, obviously. But moreover, the piano in this song sounds oddly analog. Like, it doesn't sound like it's being generated by a computer. You can hear the sound of the keys being pressed down as the notes are being played, and I think that's really incredible. Do I have any evidence that that is the case, that this is indeed an analog recording? Nope, but I want to believe it, so I'm going to, damn it. I mean, it's almost too consistent throughout the song that it could be a setting that Toby switched on, but I digress, not the point. Back to the song. It's a little slow to start with, initially only being the lower notes before being joined by the higher notes at around the 20-second mark, before then being joined again by additional instruments another 20 seconds later. I actually think that this works rather well in the song's favour. The slow progression and build-up of the song is emblematic of how the player will slowly recruit people to the town throughout the duration of Chapter 2. I do also really appreciate that after all of this build-up and swelling occurs and it begins to feel grand and epic, the song grounds itself once again, returning to the Jesus, what was that? Returning to just the initial melody for a brief reprise before the other instruments return in a more subdued way. And when they do return the second time, it's almost as if they're complementing the underlying track more so than the first time around, where it sounded like they were trying to take control. It's a beautiful song that prior to writing this script I often overlooked. Strangely, the ending of this song almost reminds me of the Ooh-Wah trilogy of songs from Undertale, specifically Ooh-Wah So Holiday, but that could just be my mind conjuring up connections where there are none. All in all, this song is incredibly solid, and something that I might even start looping to try and fall asleep to. It's that relaxing. At the moment, it gets a high placement in A tier. Have you ever heard of the monkey's paw? Because that's the situation that I find myself in at this very moment. In my video ranking the songs of Undertale, I said that Oh My would be 10 times better if it included Meditone's voice clip from in-game in the song. And here we are. Ohhhohohoho is Toby's sick response to myself a year ago. This track really should have been included in the following song, Queen, if you were going to include it in the soundtrack at all. Don't get me wrong, Queen's laugh is iconic and complements the introduction to her song perfectly. It just shouldn't be its own standalone track. F tier. And so, here we have my reward to listening to Queen laugh for a couple of minutes straight while I was writing the previous portion of the script, Queen. And I think that this is an incredibly good fit for the character of Queen. Like, you couldn't write a song more fitting of Queen. This song sounds very royal and regal. I don't know what the name of the instrument is, but you know the one I'm talking about. The very twangy, irritating one that dominates the entirety of this song and gives it that characteristically royal feel. It's the same one that was present, albeit subtly, in Undyne's theme in the first game, and it's the same one that absolutely should not be playing the leading role in any song. It is grating and annoying and not good to listen to. So in that regard, I suppose it fits Queen perfectly, and that's alongside the rest of the song that is just oozing Queen in every single aspect. From the way the melody almost trips over itself before regaining composure as if overly eager to get out something to say and do everything at once all the time, everything all at once, to the wavering backing instrument that is incredibly goofy sounding, culminating the end of this track that, although the same melody, is more sinister in the way it sounds, implying that although very, very silly, the Queen may actually be a threat if left unaddressed. All of that, however, cannot save this song from the fact that I don't want to listen to it, so it's like a high D tier, I guess. Okay, so I knew this song was going to be highly rated from the jump, but I didn't know just how highly rated I would make A Cyber's World. From the simplistic start to the slow fade in of the stinger that accompanied your exit from the ruins in Undertale, I am quickly learning to love this song more and more. Like, man, that little solo after the initial climax just makes my brain go brrr and makes me so happy. And for Toby to immediately follow it up with a song that, in its most basic form, is so groovy and constantly has me bobbing my head from side to side, is just so damn good. Of course, that's not all this song is. This song continues to evolve and change without ever missing a beat and stumbling. It's just a really good synth-esque vibe the whole way down, and frankly, I'm here for it. Now, I know that I say a lot of Toby Fox's songs, they change significantly throughout the song, but A Cyber's World in particular is a shining example of this. This song has a beginning, middle, and end. It's not just a looping video game area music, which is what makes these OSTs so spectacular. These OSTs defy what it means to be stereotypically video gamey. Hell, that's what had me in complete awe when listening to Another Medium almost 10 years ago for the first time. I wish I had more to say about this song because it's so damn good and I love it so much, but much like Core or some of the other songs in Undertale, all I can say is that this song is going in S tier. It's just that good, I don't have anything else to say. A Simple Diversion is a song that if any of you had a Jerichode bingo card and were playing along at home trying to guess what I would have to say about songs, you would be over the moon right now, because on paper, I shouldn't like this song at all. It's very simplistic and it's bit crushed. The notes in this song are rather high-pitched at points and it's a retread from a previous song's melody. But strangely enough, I really like this song. Even more than the song that introduces Queen's theme, I think. It's not an incredible piece of artistic expression that will be studied for years to come, a piece that teaches us not only about the contemporary world but also ourselves, but it's pretty alright. Goes in C tier. Almost to the Guys may seem innocuous at first blush, but Little do you know, you beautiful little egg you, is that this song is the beginning of the end. This song is the first of 6 songs that sound almost identical to each other. Not only that, but a few extra songs also focus on this little group of CD slingers that are just terrible and not good. When I tell you that Sweet Cap'n Cakes has more of a presence on this OST than one of our main characters, that being Susie, I mean it and I hate it. For the time being, this song's alright, it'll go in like high C tier. What did I say? What did I tell you? If the previous song was the bait, then Cool Beat is the switch that you dread. I hate it, it's going in F tier. Yo, Mr. Fox, Toby. Can I call you Toby? Cool, I'm gonna call you Toby. You know what would be really cool? If you kept putting really terrible songs one after another, but gave them some funny and quirky names, like, oh, I don't know, off the top of the dome here. When I get mad, I dance like this. That'd be really funny and a good idea, and it wouldn't end up with them being in F tier at all. Now, would you look at that? We have the return of actually good songs in the soundtrack. Cyber Battle Solo is a super banging track actually, and it's for a few reasons. Not only does it expand on the previously great melody established in Almost to the Guys, but it also allows me to provide an example to a point that I brought up earlier. I want you, dear viewer, to listen to the backing drums in this song and tell me that they aren't the exact same type of backing drums that would be used in a song in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I don't think you can tell me that honestly, and I think that's really cool. If there were a retro sound that I wanted to hear emulated more, it would be that of the Genesis, so this is a serious win in my book. That being said, this song is another that I struggle to find much to comment on. It's pretty good, it's really good actually, but it's just not my vibe. It still gets me grooving along to it, and I might skip it sometimes, so middle of B tier sounds alright. When I Get Happy, I Dance Like This is a direct, short-lived continuation of the prior song, and it's fine. It's pretty good, much like the prior one. I'll put it right besides B tier, I guess. Seems fair to me. I sure hope that you're not tired of this motif yet, because it's still here, except this time, right, hear me out, it's bit crushed. How exciting. My snidiness aside, Sound Studio is fine, I guess. I've said what I can say about this song essentially 2 times already, so thanks for 10,000 subs. Subscribe to the Patreon. This song's going in C tier. Up next we have Berdly, which introduces the theme of, would you believe it, Berdly, and I think it does an incredible disservice to what is an otherwise incredibly good theme. The up and down cadence that this song carries is pretty nifty and all, but it absolutely destroys my ears and I just can't do it, man. This song is high D tier, but don't stress for our little Bluebird of Misfortune. He will get his chance to shine, well, right now. In Smart Race, that is. And man, what an immediate and direct improvement. Honestly, Berdly's theme jettisons up a couple of tiers for me almost instantly in this song. It is so damn good. I find it taking up residence in my brain and refusing all efforts of eviction. I will just walk around work, home, or my neighborhood just whistling this song like it's nobody's business. It takes the seesawing nature from the previous song and breathes so much life into it that I now want to be humming it everywhere. So to start this song off, you have what sounds like a very shortened version of Queen's theme being inserted in the background. It's very subtle and almost in a way that it could be easily overlooked as it transitions smoothly into Berdly's theme, which is really cool, and I think it's a really neat lore implication, obviously. And to speak of Berdly's theme here, it is working overtime to keep prevalence in a song that feels like it is trying to intentionally obscure it. And when I say that, I feel the need to clarify that that's not a fault of the song. It's actually a really good way to hint at the idea that, contrary to what Berdly might think, he's not in complete control of the situation. He's not magically better off in the dark world than his classmates. This situation can and will get out of hand so quickly and without any warning. After allowing Berdly's up and down melody to play out a couple of times, there's this low instrument that slowly begins to take the center stage before Berdly regains control again. Likewise, towards the end, the underlying beat keeping Berdly in time is slowly growing larger and louder and consuming everything. The control that he seems to think he can exert in this whole scenario is a facade, one that he for now believes in wholeheartedly. It is a fantastically done song. Not only is it great from a lore standpoint, it is also really fun to listen to, so it's A tier. Faint Courage seems a lot like Undertale's game over theme Determination if you workshopped it a little more and added some more flair to it. All of that being said, I don't really like this song much. Why? It's painful. It's painful for my ears, that's all I can really say. On top of all of that, it's incredibly basic and generic sounding to begin with, and even when it does become more unique and not as video gamey sounding, it is still really hard to listen to. I wish I liked this song. Who knows, if there is a live concert for this game after its completion in 2036, then I might really like this track, but as it stands currently, it's firmly in like the F tier, sorry. On the direct opposite end of the tier list, we have Welcome to the City, another piece of evidence to throw into the pile of Toby Fox excels at making area themes in video games. Don't be fooled by the simplistic opening of this song though. What at first may seem like a very normal song quickly becomes a track composed of cat meowing noises, and the next thing you know, you're the fool sitting there bopping along to it like nothing's out of the ordinary. The sense of slow discovery in this song is a perfect fit for the area in the game as well. You find yourself in the big city, the music reflecting that perfectly. All that being said, however, something about this song just never quite grabbed me. It's a damn good song, it's a fantastic bop, but it is also just gonna go in B tier. Yo, we have another version of the same melody that we've heard way too much of before, but worse and somehow even more bit-crushing and ear-piercing than before. Dude, this song genuinely sounds like Toby's best attempt at stress testing his listeners to see how much they'll put up with, and I won't, so Mini Studio is F. You know what's really sad about Holiday Studio? If this wasn't the millionth iteration of the same theme, I would probably love this song. Christmas is one of my favourite holidays, and you can't go wrong with a good Jingle Bells remix. Plus, the little possible lore hint in its name towards Des and Noel is rather intriguing, but at the end of the day, this song doesn't rank very high. The oversaturation of this one melody in the market has led Santa and his reindeers finding themselves in the D tier, unfortunately. I never thought I'd find myself jamming out so hard to such a simplistic song, and yet here I am. Cool Mixtape may just be a Big Crush version of Queen's theme, but it's short and sweet, and it actually goes pretty hard. I don't usually skip it, so low C tier. How am I meant to pronounce the name of this song correctly? Is it Hey Every? Or is it Hey Every, but compressed like a text-to-speech program that those chatbots used to use back in the day? Honestly, I'm not sure. All I know is this song is a very brief, disjointed sounding song, if you will, that represents Spamton rather well. It's also uncanny in its presentation. The false veneer of joy and excitement coupled with the deafening silence works wonders to make you immediately distrust this salesman who's taken up residence in some dumpster. All that being said, I don't know, man, it's not really a song that you want to listen to, is it? It's just like bump bump bump, so I give it like a high D tier. I find that Spamton fills a space in this soundtrack not too dissimilar to that of Mettaton's in the Undertale soundtrack, where he has a few songs that relate to him and all of them are pretty solid songs in their own right. Take this song, Spamton, for example. While it may not be anything mind-blowing or life-changing, it puts a lot of effort into establishing the sort of musical style you can expect with Spamton. A bass melody that is just crunchy enough to represent dial-up internet, but not so crunchy that it's painful to listen to. The sporadic use of seemingly higher quality sound effects that shouldn't work in a musical context, the ringing phone or the audio clip of "Now's your chance to be a big shot." This isn't the first time that Toby Fox has done this either. The ghost motif in Undertale and all of its iterations used the sample of a man saying "ooh" and excelled perfectly. In a neat way, I guess that's a good connection between the ghosts of Undertale who wanted a body where they could be comfortable in, and Spamton who wants a body in order to control and oppress others. It's sort of poetic in that nature. All in all though, this song finds itself comfortably in the C tier. Toby Fox, the crazy motherfucker, somehow continues to make songs that I shouldn't be comfortable showing my peers and pumping on the aux at a party, and yet I am convinced that everyone will come around on it eventually and agree with me that it's a banger. Now's Your Chance to Be Up follows on from all the theming and musical style established in the previous two tracks, and now that the listener has been acquainted with Spamton's general vibe, Toby chooses to toy with and defy expectations. This song starts really tame compared to its predecessors, and while it still uses the same delightfully crunchy melody, it isn't until about the 20-second mark that the use of the out-of-place sound effects find their way into this track, and it all happens gradually. The ringing phone sound effect is cut short and quieter in its first couple of goes around, and it's around the introduction to the iconic crunchy soundbite that replaces the main melody that almost ghostly backing track finds its way in. I don't really know why this could be here, other than a couple of reasons. It could be to hint at the possible twist coming much later on, or it could just be that specific tune is a typical sound used for suspense and tension is generally associated with ghosts, in which case I'm just overthinking it for no reason, but hey, what's new? That's kind of the whole point. It's only about 10 seconds after that's introduced, however, that Toby introduces the main sound clip of this song and Spamton as a whole. Now's your chance to be a big shot. This is led by a sound clip of someone saying wow, 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 slowly becoming more distorted and lowered in its pitch, which is really unnerving when you listen to it in isolation. The repetitive yet chaotic nature of Now's your chance to be a big shot is so kinetic, it's almost like the sound clips are playing a volley between your ears, bouncing from one side to the other, occasionally joined by a strange laughing sound effect that is reminiscent of the phone ringing sound effect. Does that all sound excessively chaotic? Good, because chaos is Spamton incarnate. This somehow all works, and the end result is a song that has me erratically bopping my head, and I fucking love it. High A tier. We will see this song done to perfection later on, and you better look forward to it. Following that absolute banger of a song, we have Elegant Entrance, and spoiler alert, I don't like it very much at all. It's a slower version of Queen's theme, and I'm not too particularly fond of that one to begin with, so it's really painful to listen to, like some of the other songs on this list, and it ends nicely, I guess, but I won't find myself listening to it a lot, so I'll give it like a low C tier. Speaking of songs that are painful to listen to, Bluebird of Misfortune, ladies and gentlemen. Its simplistic nature works wonders in the context of the game, but for listening purposes, this song is easily an F tier. Pandora Palace is one of those songs that I've never really been able to get into, much like Asgore. And much like Asgore, I'm sure plenty of you would place this song much higher on the list than I'm about to, so sorry about that. I really can't explain what it is about this song, but it just doesn't click with me. The little bits where the Queen paintings are laughing are of course iconic, and I wish that would actually be used more throughout the song. The beat is pretty solid the entire time, and it picks up quite nicely in the second half, and to be honest with you, I just don't know why I don't click with this song. I'm gonna put it in B tier. You might put it higher, but this is where it's gonna sit for me. Well, here we have another song that is used for the purpose of being a gag in the game, and much like how I don't find the gag very funny, I also don't like listening to KEYGEN very much. It's an excerpt of a larger song, and as such this song finds its way into the F tier, but like at the top of F tier, almost D tier but not quite. When I first listened to the Chapter 2 soundtrack and watched people play through the game, I was not expecting Acid Tunnel of Love to stick in my mind quite like it did. It seems manufactured to be a one-off gag song that you aren't meant to listen to over and over again, but the melody of it is just nice enough that this song gets stuck in my head. It's not going to be a song that I randomly start playing, nor is it up there with my favourites, and as such this song finds itself in the B tier. The sound that it's trying to emulate is done perfectly, and it's pretty good. Huh. Rouxls would be the character that ended up in the 69th spot on our list, wouldn't he? That just seems fitting. This is another one of those songs that I wasn't expecting to like as much as I do, so I'll cut to the chase here. It's pronounced Rouxls is right next to the previous song in B tier. It's just the perfect level of funny swashbuckling, "Arr, I'm a pirate," and the false veneer of royalty and importance Rouxls likes to grant himself. Overall, a pretty solid song. Also, was it really that hard for people to grasp the idea of Rouxls Kaard being pronounced Rouxls? I know I have the benefit of hindsight here, but like, come on, Rouxls Kaard in a chapter all about playing cards, and you still pronounce it Rouxls Kaard or whatever? Like, come on, bro. Regardless, it's B tier. Let's move on. So, listening to and trying to assess how I feel about Lost Girls helped me discover a few things I either didn't know or didn't fully appreciate about this song. You obviously have the double entendre present in the title of the song, referring to both how Noelle feels lost in this world, detached and alone. Her mother is distant and cold, her father is extremely sick, and her sister is, well, the second interpretation of that song. Throughout this chapter, it is heavily hinted at that December holiday, or DES for short, has gone missing. Noelle isn't afforded the same privilege that Chris has of knowing where her sibling has gone. She's just gone, and Noelle has been trying so hard to look for her, constantly searching on and offline to no avail. This song is a somber tribute to Des, and I think that is beautiful. It also has some weird static-y noise or interference in the background that really tanks my enjoyment of this song, and as such it ends up in like a low C tier. It honestly would have been an A, but I just cannot stand interference. I like my audio clean, you know, unless it's analog, but that's besides the point. Up next is Ferris Wheel, and oh boy, it is not a song that I'm very fond of. You should already know what I'm going to say by now, but in case the incredibly high-pitched notes weren't bad enough, this song stays very simplistic and very repetitive for far too long. It's not until about the 40-second mark in that we actually get to a part of the song that I would consider pretty good and worth listening to, and so because of that, this song is going in D tier. Probably high D tier, but it just takes a little bit too long to get good in my opinion. Do you want to know what happens when you cross the criminally underutilized Queen motif with the A-tier Berdly motif? Well, you get the absolute banger that is Attack of the Killer Queen, and man, what a banger this song is. For starters, this song is the same higher tempo as Cool Mixtape, which in my opinion is the tempo that Queen's theme should always be played in. The slower tempo of Queen and the Simple Diversion simply don't fit the goofy, off-the-wall energy that Queen has as a character. In fact, the more I listen to this song, the more I'm convinced that Cool Mixtape is actually a separate, better motif than the original Queen motif. It's mainly the constant backing beat that cements this idea for me, and it's also likely what gives this song its incredible energy as well. And So the first 40 seconds of the song are essentially what if you redid Cool Mixtape in higher fidelity, and it's not until you reach that 40-second threshold that Berdly's theme starts to contribute to the song. It is really the star of the show here, that's how good of a theme it is. From this point forward, Queen's theme is entirely playing to and complementing the strengths of Berdly's beautifully. I also find that this actually presents quite a good opportunity for use of that twanging instrument that I criticise so harshly in Queen. It simply works wonders as an accompanying piece to the main theme being played in the foreground. Overall, it's a fantastic song that also loops really fucking well, so it's gonna go in S tier. I think Giga Size could unfortunately be a lot more than it ended up being. The ending 10 to 20 seconds of the song is foreboding while still retaining that royal and elegant feel to it. I don't know, this feels too large of a diversion from the original Queen theme, which I understand within the context of the game, but as a standalone piece of Queen media, I don't really fuck with it here. It's not bad either, it's quite good, there's just so much missed potential here. I think this fits well in a high C tier. Powers Combined is a good gag song that is going to be dragged down in the rankings purely based on the fact that it is an excerpt of the following song, middle of D tier. I don't know how well I can express my sheer emptiness towards this song. I don't hate it, I don't like it, I just don't care about it. It's not my type of song, and this may be the most biased and unfair placement in this tier list, but Knock You Down is an F tier. I'm sorry. Feel free to yell at me in the comments if you really like this type of song. I just don't ever listen to the song. Ever. Here we have the quintessential moody dark song that everyone loves from this chapter, The Dark Truth. I'm not sure what it is about the first half of this song which gives me big, flowery, Toby Fox 4-note Danger theme vibes, but more disjointed, if you will, which in turn is more terrifying to me. It feels disorienting, almost dissociative. Like you just heard the most shocking news in the world and you don't have a single clue where to start or even start processing it. And by the time we reach the 30-second mark of the song and the familiar sound of Don't Forget starts to play, it's just such a gut punch, pure sadness, hopelessness, and powerlessness. It's not so much that everything is out of your control, but more the inability to affect or change anything. It may be a subtle semantic difference, but it makes the entire context of a situation change. You almost feel like if you just tried that little bit harder, then all of your work wouldn't be for naught, but that point never comes. It's an incredibly atmospheric and visceral song. I love it. The way that it ends on Don't Forget being unfinished, unresolved, like the one through line of the entire game so far has been utterly eviscerated and is just out of reach is incredible. As an overall listening experience, I surprisingly don't hate it either, so I give it like a low B tier. Digital Roots is, as far as I can tell, literally just the 4-note Danger theme slowed down with some atmospheric windy noises. Atmospherically, it is definitely an oh shit moment in the game, but as for this tier list, it's an F tier, so sorry. Deal Gone Wrong is another one of those tracks that works perfectly in the game but is a terrible listening experience. It's just the Spamton song, slowed down. So this is the game's way of telling me that Spamton is not the Mettaton of this tier list because this one's going in F. I think it would be unfair of me to so heavily front-load the ranking of the song by saying it is most definitely the best song in Chapter 2, but like, come on. Big Shot almost immediately managed to retroactively change how I listen to not just previous Spamton songs, but also a couple of songs from the previous chapter and even Undertale. Hell, I almost wrote 1,000 words about just this damn song. It is that good. And I mean, what better represents Spamton and his understanding of the very world he lives in than his use of so many different motifs that aren't even in his game. This song, that is a literal smorgasbord of so many other songs and somehow manages to go so hard, is the chaotic nature of Spamton taken to its logical conclusion. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and start from the beginning though, because this song comes at you fast. Starting off as a seemingly foreboding and intimidating version of Spamton, this song will quickly get you well acquainted with changing themes every 15 seconds on the dot, as you're immediately launched into a much more upbeat and friendly sounding song, assuring you that now's your chance to be a big shot. Of course, here you have that classic almost YouTube poop-esque use of voice clips to make that beat. This is all before you're straight back to reality where this intense, threatening, and all-powerful Spamton resides. Except this time it's much faster paced and chaotic than before. The reality of it all is really starting to dawn on you. And then, yet again, you're whiplashed back into this salesman persona. Now's your chance to be a big shot, except this time it is again more degraded than before. It is frequently interrupted by the more intense verse and the chaotic laughter heard in Spamton, leading us into the next part of this song, a new part of the song if you will, where the world revolving is present. Now I, much like a lot of the community, subscribe to the belief that the world revolving is actually the motif of knowledge or forbidden freedom in this game, that being the same knowledge that drove both Jevil and Spamton crazy and may have something to do with, you know, a certain Dr. W.D. Gaster. And it's fitting that in this part of the song you can faintly hear talking. It's glitched and layered on top of each other, but under the soundtrack you can just ever so faintly hear it. It's like this whispering that's there just enough to drive you insane. That on its own lends to the chaotic and all over the place feel of this song. However, fans have managed to isolate the actual voice and we have a pretty good idea of what it's saying. What we've been able to surmise so far is, I think he's coming for me, answer the phone, I can't explain until you're all alone. Pull the strings and make them ring until your heart gets ripped up. And then it repeats that, except the last line about your heart getting ripped up is, I'll tell you what, you big shot. A huge shout out to the YouTuber, Blake Gunner, who managed to isolate these vocals before the plushie was released and just had the lines on their own. These lyrics may just be a reiteration of Spamton's slow descent into madness, but I do like the imagery of Spamton being a puppet on strings, and the use of the words pull the strings and make them ring gives a new perspective on all the times we heard the phone ringing in Spamton songs. It's like he, whoever he may be, and definitely not W.D. Gaster, is always there, keeping Spamton just in eyeshot. The idea of ripping up a heart, specifically as opposed to ripping out, is interesting as well. In Undertale, and in this song as well, Spamton and all the monsters were trying to take your soul, not tear it apart. The latter would make more sense within context of Deltarune, as we see Chris's heart being ripped out by himself as well, a lot of times, during battles at the end of both chapters and when the fountain is sealed. And also, I can't explain until you're all alone, being directly after I think he's coming for me, could point towards what exactly Chris is going through. After all, getting Chris alone was Spamton's tactic to steal their heart, so why would the first statement not also apply? It's important to note as well that all these lyrics happen during the world revolving being present in the song, reinforcing the idea that that motif is knowledge or freedom. Anyway, back to the actual music. Around the same time that we hear the world revolving being introduced, the power of Neo is also introduced, which leads quite nicely into what I alluded to earlier, Spamton's connection to the ghost of Undertale. Where the mad dummy ghost was lashing out in anger because of its dysphoria with its body that it found itself in, eventually going on to be comfortable as Mad Mew Mew, Spamton is lashing out in anger at his knowledge and understanding that everything around him is just one side of a coin. And yet despite everything, despite inhabiting the body of and harnessing the power of Neo, much like it was for Mettaton in the genocide route, it's not enough. This song is such an incredible masterpiece. Obviously it's going in ST, I fucking love it so much, and it ends on the dummy tune, oh my fucking lord. A Real Boy made this to be a sped up version of Hey Every, but it feels like a fitting conclusion to the overall arc of our Tumblr sexy man. All in all, I give it a C. It's short and inoffensive. I find that Dialtone is placed in a weird spot in the OSC because for all intents and purposes you would have heard this song prior to the previous two. I don't know, I'm not Toby Fox, I don't make the rules. Maybe if the placement was changed it would help with the ranking the song is going to receive. As this song is essentially Circus again, simply missing some notes, and the only reason I thought Circus worked was as a prerequisite to the world revolving. As such, this song finds its way into the very bottom of D tier. And we have the first entirely reused song here, and of course it's Sans. The fact that Sans would be the character to essentially be ripped straight from Undertale, even questioning you if you mention Papyrus despite him not informing you on the existence of his brother, it's really fitting, isn't it? But much like I said last time, this song is goofy yet fitting for Sans. It's not my cup of tea and it's still in C tier. I would be interested to see this song redone in Toby Fox's more elegantly goofy way, if you'd put it like that. While chill Jailbreak Alarm to Study and Relax to is essentially just Pathetic House from Undertale except a bit faster and with some additional instruments, it's not going to receive the same ranking. This song is still a very nothing song. However, the lack of any presence of the prior songs that it's echoing does place it in D tier above the F tier it got in the previous video. Man, they really butchered one of my favourite songs. I am not a fan of Until Next Time, which is an oddity as I love everything Don't Forget, and this is literally that song being remixed. I just don't like the way they remixed it at all. It's F, I'm sorry. I do think it's very funny of Toby Fox to include this rejected concept of Berdly in the Chapter 2 OSC. It's just as grating and annoying as I could imagine Berdly actually being if he was real. So good job, Toby. This is going in F tier. I fucking hate it. So, I thought to round out this video I'd rank a few of the unused songs present in the game files, Deltarune newsletter and the Spamton sweepstakes along other miscellaneous sources. I've not included all of them, and I've tried to avoid some that may end up in future chapters, so without further ado, the first of the unused songs is Noelle, which seems to be an early version of Girl Next Door. It's a bit more upbeat and cheery sounding than the one used in game. It is much pluckier, which leads me to believe that this may have been an earlier version before her backstory was entirely fleshed out. To be entirely honest with you, I think I like this version better than the one used in game. I understand that the one in game may be better from a character standpoint, but purely from a listening standpoint, I'm more of a fan of this one, so low A tier. And next up we have Welcome to the City Old, which was posted to Twitter by Toby Fox and is ever so slightly faster than the base version of this song. Being someone with internet brain rot who watches all my YouTube videos in 2x speed, this version just sounds more right to me. Like the original version of this song feels a little awkward and slow at points, and I just overall think that this is a better fit. Much like the previous song, I think I prefer this over the one in the game. Something about the original just never quite clicked with me, but this one certainly does, A tier. This next song, an alternate version of Lost Girl, was posted alongside the original version of it on Twitter. Interestingly, this version starts about 50 seconds into the version of the song we're actually all familiar with, and continues on after the end of it as well, swelling into a grander alternative version of the song that we already know. Interestingly, this song is also cut off after about a minute of new content, implying that maybe we'll get a full version of both songs one day? Who knows? For now, I think it's right to place this song right beside its alternative in C tier. Next up, we have an early version of the school theme, which was presented during the Undertale 6th anniversary livestream, where they played Deltarune. This alternate version of school borrows heavily from Don't Forget, which is why Toby decided to forego using the track and instead basing it on the town theme. And while I am a huge lover of Don't Forget, I do definitely agree with Toby here. This version leans on it far too much. I like the small snippets that I heard in the version that went used. It's still a bop track, it's just not quite as good, so it's gonna go in B tier. Listening to these unused tracks and why Toby either did or didn't use these shows just how much care he puts into each section of the game. This song, Checkerboard for example, didn't get used because Toby Fox felt having a new area theme for what is such a short part of Chapter 1 would be building expectations higher than Toby was going to be able to deliver. And I mean, yeah, this song is pretty good, and if it only lasted the entire length of the checkerboard that would feel really strange. Overall though, something about the song just doesn't click with me, and as such it's going to land in the middle of C tier. I find it very interesting that there was originally going to be a battle against Rouxls, which would have been accompanied with the very creative song name, Epic Rouxls Battle. It ended up being scrapped as Toby wanted Rouxls to fight you on top of K-Round, but he couldn't figure out how to make it work by himself, which is probably the inspiration for Rouxls writing the Thrash Machine in Chapter 2, but even in Chapter 2, Epic Rouxls Battle doesn't make a return. Toby said that he felt the music was too epic for Rouxls, which I do actually kind of agree with. I'm also just not very wowed by this song, so it's going to be in the very low C tier, towards the bottom. Up next we have Character Joined Long, which was going to play when Susie joined, but it was decided that it was too awkward being frozen for 10 seconds. Which I think you still are anyway, but I don't know, it got cut, that's what's important. I think it's a pretty little melody, and you know I love the piano, so it ends up just above the original Fanfare in C. If this was the actual extended version of that Fanfare, it would probably be a lot higher, but for now it's in C. Next we have a scrapped boss song that was going to play initially when you fought King, fittingly titled King Boss, or Kestrel. I honestly think that this song is such a bop. The use of the legend motif is a nice touch and overall sounds pretty good. But I do have to agree with Toby here. I don't think it suits King as a character too much whatsoever. There's no identity of his castle or his goofy little son in here, it's just the legend. And I also think it's a little bit generic as well, so this one's going to end up in D tier. This next song is what I would call a direct improvement of the one used in game. In a listening sense, that is. You see, I don't think the alternative version of the legend fits the vibe that Toby was going for in game. That childlike feel of kids playing pretend and creating legends to tell each other. This version feels a little bit too grand, too set in stone to be told in game. Especially when everything in game at this point is very crudely drawn sprites. All that being said, I vastly prefer this one over the original, entirely due to the lack of ear-piercing notes in this one. Because of that, this is going to be placed in a low B tier. The unused theme for the Dark Fountains, aptly named Fountain, is not a track I very much enjoy. It is incredibly evocative of Waterfall, and in the same sense this song is just not for me. Toby plans to use this elsewhere in the game, whether that will come to fruition is yet to be seen, but if it does, it will probably still be in the low D tier for me. Holy shit, this next song is incredible. I love the idea of an animated intro being played along to this tune of this unused piano sketch, the game's main theme. It's just incredible. It's obviously Don't Forget, except more upbeat and made it sound like it would fit an anime intro laid out in a montage. It's really good, especially towards the end where it gets all bombastic and over the top. Go listen to it in full if you haven't already, it's low A tier. And now we're onto the tracks that are either used and hidden or used outside of the game, such as the Spamton sweepstakes. First, we have the song that has raised a debate about whether or not it's related to W.D. Gaster, simply titled Man. It is an off-putting little looping song. I think it is appropriately unnerving, and as such I give it a respectable high D tier. Fun fact, this was originally a fan song for Yume Nikki. Do with that information what you will. This next song is one of two error screen songs. These error screens are known as dog checks, thus the name of this track. Undertale similarly had two dog check screens and neither of them were as good as this one is. Something about dog check is remarkably calming. It is Once Upon a Time in there making me reminisce on Undertale, and it ends off with Don't Forget. It's pretty chill all around. I give it like a middle of B tier. The Chapter 2 dog check screen is not quite as calming as Chapter 1's. This song is honestly most interesting because of its name, Alarm Title Screen. In case you were unaware, one of the stretch goals of the original Undertale Kickstarter was to make an alarm clock app. It's strange, but it never ended up happening, and Toby instead dumped a bunch of the dialogue from the app online. So, by the naming of this song, could it be the song that would have played on the alarm clock title screen? Maybe. Either way, I don't like it, and it's going in F tier. This next song is the only shred of proof in this video that even hints at the existence of Snowgrave. I decided to leave out all the other songs it plays during the Snowgrave route in Chapter 2, as this is the only one that can really be considered a song. Anyway, flashback excerpt plays during the scene in the hospital where Noah is thinking back on everything she did in the Dark World. It is appropriately haunting, but overall repetitive, and so it goes in low D tier. Our next few songs were found during the Spamton sweepstakes events, and first of those is Results. It's a chill version of the ooh-wah motifs from Undertale joystick config menu, and I actually kinda fuck with it heavy. You should listen to this one if you haven't, it's low B tier. Okay, so honestly, I only included PNPN to talk about the fact that Jerichode, a popular lore guy in the Deltarune community whose content I adore, is hellbent on the idea that there are secrets hidden in this song. And a whole year later, just how funny it is the idea that seemingly, no, there aren't any secrets hidden here. I don't say this to dunk on Jaru, I just find it rather amusing how absolutely insane Toby Fox has managed to send his entire community that people are trying to dissect a track that is reverb piano. It's obviously F tier, but I just thought it was fun to include. And here we come to our last song, Find Her, which is a guitar cover of Lost Girl. Obviously Des is a lost girl and we are meant to find her, that much is clear. I just really like this cover and wanted to include it. It sits firmly in the middle of B tier. And with that being said, thank you. Seriously, thank you so much. This time last year, I had all of 56 subscribers and just had decided to give YouTube another shot. And look at us now. 1 year on, we have over 10,000 subscribers on the channel, and to say that all of you managed to make a dream of mine come true would be such a huge understatement. This channel, this community, has been such an incredible way of expressing myself that I never thought I could have. It has given me opportunities I wouldn't have ever dreamed of, and I have big plans for the future, so consider this a 10,000 subscriber special, if you will, a sort of love letter to the video that made me blow up in the first place. If you've ever commented, joined the Discord, or even just watched one of my videos, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm also soft launching the Patreon here, as I've mentioned a couple of times. At the moment, it is purely a way of showing your support for the channel, but in the future, I have big things planned for it. Early access to videos, exclusive videos, and the ability to influence what I might make next. But, as I said, for the moment, it is just a way to show your support. So, once again, thank you so incredibly much, and good night.